Well,
None
no.
of that.
That's what I just wanted to check first beforehand.
Hell no. No scripts, no. Maybe occasionally I'll have a couple of questions that I'll just be like, oh, this is kind of interesting to hear
Well,
your
yeah.
side from. But none of that shit, mate. I'm not a professional. I'm not a journalist or any of that sort of shit. So, brother, I'll let you take it away. Who are you?
Well, I am Matt Gibson. I am a professional cyclist. I've been pretty much a full-time cyclist since I was, I think, how old now? How old was I when I started missing school all the time?
About 16.
About 16, yeah. So from there, I was on the British cycling program on a couple of different levels of it until I was until I was 18, 19. And then I actually ended up having an illness then that was undiagnosed for a long time. Left that to focus. Well, previously I'd been focusing more on the track cycling, and then left that to focus more on the road, which I'd always been doing. Well, both, but I wanted to focus more on the road at that point. And then I spent the past 4 years doing that. 2 years at a British team, and stepped up 2 years ago to a Spanish team that was at a higher level. And now, at the moment, I'm not entirely sure where I'm going to be next year, but
yeah,
trying to figure that out at the moment.
Talk to me about the illness, man, because like I don't remember what it was called. I know it's a long fucking thing, but I remember it absolutely like wiping you out.
Oh yeah, it's called cytomegalovirus. I originally, well, in hindsight, this is what I think happened. I originally might have caught it around, would have been around the time I was 18. I'd just stepped up to the academy program, which starts, well, for most people, it starts when they finish school. But for me, because of being born in September, similar to you, I had to, because it's done on year that you're born rather than school year, I had to leave school a year early to do that. And then from there, I was then sort of very quickly taken on to like the elite podium squad. Not officially, but I was doing most of my training with them. And after already I'd got to the end of the season before, quite tired, hadn't really taken much time off, quickly pushed into that, and then like just pushed more and more and more. And then around March I was up at altitude in Tenerife training there. Spent 2 weeks where I was like so desperate to impress everyone that I just like absolutely turned myself inside out every single day, even when I definitely shouldn't have done. After that, I feel like if on the way back I thought I had food poisoning, but it turns out that you can have like symptoms like that, or potentially, because not many people know much about what I had. I could have potentially caught it then, and then from then onwards, it was just like almost not quite constant, but almost all the time, like chronic fatigue symptoms.
Oh shit!
Which is what I was always for the following year and a half. I was at British Cycling, is what I was told I had. So I'd spend a bit of time where I could train okay, and then I'd just like be rubbish. And on certain days, barely like able to like the kind of pace, kind of pace that people would ride to the shops at. And then like, but sort of, it was kind of like that on and off for, yeah, like I said, about a year and a half. In that I had periods of time where I took some time off where I'd get a little bit better, but I wouldn't fully recover. So I'd sort of like always be like a little bit of like, well, kind of getting there and then back down again, and then kind of getting there and then back down again.
Do you think it was caused by overtraining, or is it just like a bug you kind of pick up?
I think it was apparently a lot of people actually catch it, but it doesn't really do anything
Mm.
unless you're fatigued at the same time.
Yeah. So from the season before, it's
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
like fucks you.
Definitely.
Oh shit.
I mean, somehow within that, I managed to get a few good results just off. I think somehow, like the training I'd done the years before that, still sort of kept me okay for a bit. Where I still
Mm.
got a few decent results when I'd managed to get 3, 4 weeks of decent training in.
Mm.
But eventually, they just slowly like teetered off the more and more sort of residual fitness I had, if you like.
Mm.
And so then eventually, I left that program and coincidentally joined a team where the manager of the team had the same illness and retired from it.
Oh shit.
So he'd never fully recovered from it. I only found out I had it when I joined that team and had some medical tests
Mm.
at the start of joining that team, which is something British Cycling had been doing for a long time, but they never found anything. Whether that's any fault of their own, I don't know.
Mm.
And then luckily, the team that I joined, uh, this guy called John Herity, who owned and ran it, he'd had it himself, so he kind of knew what to do with me. He knew what he did wrong, which ended his career,
Mm.
and he knew just how easy I had to take it.
Mm.
So I was really lucky in that, having someone that understood.
So
He
how did you
like trusted
eventually?
in me.
Sorry, go on.
Well, eventually it was more a case of like just slowly doing easy training for quite a while,
Mm.
which is what I'd started to do myself at the end of British Cycling, and then when I joined the team that was called JLT Condor, it doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately. But I basically just did like, I mean, it's just sort of like steady rides kind of thing, which I don't think you can't. Cycling's quite special in this way that you can ride a bike for 4 or 5 hours and not make it that hard at the same time. I
Mm.
know it sounds silly, but like once you're used to it, you can do it quite easily.
Mm.
So stuff like that really was just like building up a really good foundation to then be able to add the top end stuff back onto it, which is what kept happening before when people just kept like trying to push me into doing more and more and more.
Mm.
So just like really took my time coming back to it. I still had like bad days for a long time. I mean, potentially now, but nowhere near to the same extent that I did
Shit. So you
a couple of
still
years ago.
kind of get a little bit of
I'm,
symptoms from it?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure whether it's anxiety or actually symptoms.
Yeah. I know what you mean. A lot of it is like, I mean, especially with something like that that's wiped you out for a year and a half.
hmm
A lot of
Yeah,
it is going to end up fucking with you psychologically.
yeah. Like, because sometimes I'll just be like, am I feeling bad, or am I like, is something wrong with me, kind of thing? And that's
Mm.
something that's always going to play on my mind.
Mm.
It's probably going to always be there, if I'm honest, but
Mm.
it's just something I have to deal with.
Mm. Damn. So how long did it take until you had more good days than bad days?
I would say that was 2018, which is when I kind of had like I suppose you could call it like a comeback season. Like I did really well in 2018.
Mm.
I still had some bad days, but the majority of the time, especially when racing, that's a funny thing actually about it. When I was racing, I was always okay. I don't know whether it was the adrenaline, like outweighed, which is another thing that makes me think potentially sometimes it was mental.
Mm.
Like when that's there, I've had loads of caffeine and stuff like that. I'm all right.
Just hyped up.
Yeah, pretty
Absolutely
much.
done
Yeah,
up on a coffee.
yeah.
Yeah,
More than one
fuck.
coffee.
Yeah, Jesus. You cyclists are nearly as bad as me.
Oh no, we're bad. Like I, I always tell myself that I need to like stop drinking coffee every day because it's like I've definitely become dependent on caffeine to function normally, especially in winter at the moment. Like now it's getting darker. like having energy to do stuff when it's like a bit dark all the time. Like I struggle with that a lot and end up just turning to having like coffee after coffee. I'm like, I just can't do. I can't keep doing this. This isn't sustainable.
Yeah. I found like it does less for me physically anymore. It's more of like it's more of a tick mentally. It's like, oh, I need to be productive now. You know, once you
Yeah.
finish your
I know what you mean. Yeah.
once you finish your cup of Joe, it's like, up you get, start doing
Yeah.
shit rather than like it actually fucking.
I sometimes use it as like a little sort of. I can't remember what there's like. I've seen this like written somewhere, but like people will use like to help them do things like a little like sort of reward type thing.
Yeah.
It's like
Like an incentive.
yeah, if you do this, you can have a coffee kind of thing.
Yeah. And I usually like, I don't know, I'll have to finish certain amounts of work before I can have
Yeah.
another one. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
Otherwise,
Mm.
I'll have it on drip, and it'll be like a fucking IV in me,
Yeah.
just keeping me going. Fucking. Yeah. Although it's pretty good. I did one of these late night a few weeks back, and I was drinking tea. So I mean, I'm not that dependent on it.
Well, that's good.
I mean, I can go to sleep straight after it, but
Yeah, that's the thing. If you have too much of it, it doesn't really do much anymore.
nah, it doesn't,
It's
does it?
more that it more does much more. It does more when you haven't had it, and you feel
Yeah.
you just don't feel awake.
But it's a social thing as well, though, isn't it? Like
Yeah, oh, definitely.
I enjoy going out for a coffee. Like obviously, if we live round the fucking corner from each other, I'd be like, Gibbo, do you want to go? Do you want to go grab a coffee or sit down, shoot the shit? You know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah.
Rather than be on the phone or anything like that. Like that's
Mhm.
what I enjoy it for.
Oh, me too. That's a big part of cycling as well. Like it's like stopping at cafes and stuff's a big cultural part in cycling.
Mm,
It's pretty much everyone that's a cyclist drinks coffee, if not for the reason of like the performance benefits of caffeine, for just for the social aspects of it,
mm.
like that.
Talk to me a bit about like the aspect of teams in cycling, because like face value, right? It looks like
Yeah,
an individual sport. It looks like an indie sport.
yeah,
However, like you never.
that's
Sorry, go on.
yeah, and that's quite a good thing to touch on actually for people that don't know too much about cycling.
Mm,
Cycling, it obviously there's an individual winner,
mm,
but particularly in road cycling and in road races where you've got that big bunch of riders mainly, like and they're usually around up to about 200 riders.
fuck.
There'd be teams of usually about 7 or 8, well between 6 and 8 if I'm being precise,
Mm,
uh, where on any particular day there'll be one leader for that team, which is who is going to go for the result on that day. The other riders are there to shelter him from the wind, which makes a massive difference in cycling. Keep him up towards the front of that pack of riders. Go get him water bottles. Go get him food. Take his clothes off if he's taking clothes off. Go get him clothes from the car, which are behind. Which there's a big queue of cars behind the peloton, which are all part. Well, other than like the organisation of the race and the medical car, there's cars for each team, which there could be two in bigger races, which have food, water, spare bikes, spare clothes. So there's all sorts going on in that race where just one person on their own, it'd take a hell of a lot of energy if they were to do that stuff all the time, if that makes sense.
mm, mm. So it
So
changes.
like,
It changes day to day. You don't just have one lad or lady at the
well,
front.
yeah, it depends on the race. Sometimes there's two main types of racing. There's stage races, like the Tour de France, where you'll probably have one guy that's going for the overall, which is the cumulative time of each stage added to each other.
Mm,
However, within that, there's different styles of stages where you have flat stages where the whole bunch will get to the finish together, mainly or usually, and you'll have like your faster guy, which is usually someone like me. It's usually a bit heavier, a bit stronger, not as good in the mountains, but riding flat out for the last 250 meters is like kind of thing I do, where we'll just basically just sprint from the bunch to win that stage. So as
Mm.
well as the awards for overall, there's awards for each stage, and then there's also awards for whoever scores the most points on each stage. There's loads of competitions going on at once in one race. So there's loads of different styles of riders all competing in the same race.
Mm.
There's one overall winner, but there's also loads of other winners within each competition. So there's a sprinters jersey, there's a King of the Mountains jersey, which is the person that's crossed like a point at the top of each mountain, like accumulative points for each person that crosses like the top of the mountain first and stuff like that. So
Shit.
there's all sorts going on.
Could you? Is it physically possible to win them all?
It's possible, yeah. Sometimes it happens that someone will win two different competitions in each race.
Hmm.
For example, the last race that happened this season
Hmm.
was the Tour of Spain, where the person that won the overall also won the sprinters jersey, which is like there's say for each stage there's from like first person to cross the line gets 25 points and then 20 points and so on.
Hmm.
However, they're not all like pan flat stages, so he managed to get it through winning stages that are on top of mountains and stuff like that.
Oh shit! Did he get the mountain jersey too?
No, I don't think he got the mountains jersey, because the mountains jersey, there will be if the finish is on a mountain, there'll be points there. But there's also all the other mountains
Hmm.
before that which aren't on the finish,
Hmm.
and then there'll be riders that have maybe attacked earlier in the stage. Their plan isn't really to win the stage; it's more to get out the front, be in a smaller group of riders, which gets more coverage on the TV. So they'll get their sponsors' jerseys on the TV and stuff like that, which is
Oh
obviously
shit!
how professional cycling works. Really, it's basically just your big billboard that rides around and gets sponsors to pay you money to.
You're like a catwalk model, but on a bike.
Yeah, pretty much.
Fuck. So like, it's more. Oh shit! That I didn't even think about.
Yeah, so it's not all about where you come. It's a lot of the time it's about how you present yourself, which is why my social media is terrible. But if I got it a lot better, I could probably go a long way just off that rather
Hmm.
than my results as such, because it means a lot for teams for their sponsors to be in places that are visible.
Hmm. What's the training cycles like? Because like, you say for example, what example will I use? All right, just like footy and ruggers, right? They're
Yeah,
more skill based. Everyone's got a baseline of fitness, blah blah blah. But say we'll use football for example. So like you can have completely different tactics from week one or week two. However, in a strength sport, for example, like you will peak for a competition
yeah,
maybe twice a year.
yeah. We're a bit more like 2 or 3 times a year,
Hmm.
ideally for like a period of about a month each,
Oh, okay,
because
so
you'll
you
have
can sustain it a
several.
little bit longer.
Yeah,
That's
I mean
interesting.
there'll be some races where you're absolutely flying and some races where you're not so good.
Hmm.
But in general, you'll try and peak for a series of races rather than just one.
Okay.
Because, I mean, maybe for the World Championships, you might focus for that on it
Hmm.
by itself, or
Hmm.
the Olympics. But usually you're aiming for like a series of a couple of races that sort of are like each weekend and sort of thing.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Would you pinpoint one of them to have it as the pinnacle, or would you just say, hey,
I
whichever one I fucking
Yeah, I mean,
want?
I personally would.
Yeah.
But the way that cycling works, and it's so unpredictable because there's so much that can go wrong.
Yeah.
Because of like what I said before, all the riders, like there's so many different riders that kind of all want to be in this certain spot on the road. There's a lot of fighting for position that goes on, which if you don't do that well at the start of the race, you're not going to be there at the end to be, doesn't matter how strong you are, you could be the strongest there, but if you can't get yourself, can't barge past a load of other riders, you're just not going to be there full stop.
Yeah, for sure. What's the training like?
It is, I suppose if I go through what my training's like in general, it's sort of like, at the moment, I'm just getting back into things. So I'll be focusing on longer rides, which are between 4 and 5 hours. And it's not as bad as it sounds. It's not like running for 4 or 5 hours.
Runners are a different breed, mate. Like, and then triathletes are just nuts.
Yeah, well, I know. So, and then as well as the longer rides, I've started doing a bit of like conditioning style work, and ideally I'd be getting in the gym, but obviously with lockdown and stuff, I can't really be doing that too much, well, at all at the moment. And then slowly as I get closer to races, I'll probably bring the duration down a bit and add more effort. So I'll go out and do, for example, 3 times 20 minutes. Do you know much about heart rate zones?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I do 3 times 20 minutes at like sweet spot or just on like lower part of zone 4. And then, or I'll do 5 minutes as fast as I can, like 5 times or something. They're not like specific sessions that I do or anything, but they're just kind of the gist of things.
What sort of stuff do you usually do within the weight room, like for a pro cyclist?
I've done all sorts of things over the years, but I suppose the main thing we use is mainly just doing like leg press style stuff, and then general conditioning is pretty important. When I was at British Cycling, they were obsessed with us doing like hip thrusts and stuff like that, and like working on glutes and stuff like that. And just sort of keeping your whole body sort of strong. And obviously, you need quite a. Don't want to use the word core because people always say what is core, but
like, here we go. You do a
you know
million
what
punches,
I mean.
right? Yeah, like you're fucking. But that's where we like geek out, you know, because you get into the unilateral work, you get into the actual bracing, like hip thrust is something that actually brings music to my ears, because like I ask this question all the time, right? You go, right, what athletic movement requires hip extension? And it's kind of a trick question because it's practically all of them. Everything requires you to open up your fucking hips in practically any sport. So like having a strong ass is going to make you powerful. And we're going to make you athletic. So that's really cool, having a little insight into that. And he's just finished his main event, but I think he's 52. I don't want to do him a discredit in case he's listening and he's going to slap me. I got a cyclist over here that I've sort of taken under my wing and trained for 5 months, 4 or 5 months. He's more of a sprinter like yourself. And then came into the event where it's basically a cycle around Christchurch for 20 minutes. Well, roughly 20 minutes. It's a certain number of times.
All right.
Forgive my sort of ignorance, but I have no idea, mate. But like sort of seeing the S&C side and then looking at the sort of performance side and how it improves, I think it's fascinating.
Definitely, yeah.
Do you feel like it's made a difference?
Oh, most definitely, yeah. I didn't do as much the past 2 seasons, and I definitely noticed a difference. Definitely in my top end,
Mm.
and also in just my general efficiency.
Mm.
Last season, I started to add it back in, and like my just general fitness and general stability was most definitely better.
Mm.
You're just not going to be able to put the same power down if you can't sit still in that position for as long as I have to
Yeah, for sure.
and hold yourself strong. You're just not going to be able to do it
For sure.
if you like.
And as
You're
well as
not strong
injury
enough.
prevention too, right? Like the tensile strength
Yeah,
of
yeah.
like ligaments, tendons, bone density, like
Hmm.
resilience of your fucking joints. Like,
Definitely.
do you find have you had any other like sort of little niggles, injuries, or anything like that?
Every now and again, I have like a recurring knee niggle, but I'm pretty sure every cyclist has that at some point. Like
Yeah, fucking hell.
in general, it's not that bad. But yeah, like you were saying about general resilience, it's something else I like to do. Is I do a little bit of not loads, but a little bit of running every now and again, just to help with bone density, that
Yeah,
sort of stuff.
for sure. Do you do it? Do you do it with shoes or do you do it barefoot?
Do it with shoes. I mainly do it. I mainly do it off load because I find it more enjoyable than doing it
Yeah,
on load.
yeah. You and me both.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't know how marathon runners just run down the streets. I'd rather go somewhere where there's like nice scenery or something and a bit
innit,
of
man.
few ups and a few downs.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I always say if I'm gonna run, I'm gonna do a hill sprint, and they're like, "Why?" It's
Yeah,
like because I can do like 3, and then I can just call it a day. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, it's
yeah.
harder. I only have to do 3.
To be honest, I quite like running for longer periods of time, but I don't like running hard.
Mm. So, but that's like the flip side of you cycling, though, isn't it? Because you're a sprinter
I mean, yeah, I say I'm a sprinter, but I still have to be able to ride for 4 or 5 hours,
and then
like,
sprint.
and then sprint. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's good you clarified it because people will be thinking, oh, you do a 30-second race. It's like, nah, it's
yeah.
not like Usain Bolt.
No, definitely not.
It's like Usain Bolt if you had to run a 10K beforehand.
If you ran a marathon and then sprinted at the end.
Oh fucking hell! That's just like the forgive me, I can't remember his name, but the bloke who broke the 2-hour marathon.
Oh yeah, I know who you mean, but I don't know his name either.
He like his mile time splits.
Yeah, I looked at that. That's like I feel like I looked at it and was like, that's more than I could do like flat out.
It was quicker than my mile time, and he held it for 26 times. I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't understand this. Oh fuck! So like, that's mental resilience, though, isn't it?
Oh, most definitely. Yeah.
That is mental toughness. Just saying, I'm going to sit in the pain cave and just suffer.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I guess that's what we do, what I do, but there's a lot of like ups and downs in what I do and a lot to break it up.
it's definitely what you do, man. Is there any
Yeah.
is there any sort of event that is just you've finished it, or maybe looking back in hindsight, maybe a week later, and you've just thought, Matt, like that took so much mental toughness for me to get through it simply
Oh,
because it was
yeah.
horrendous.
So many, like lots of times. I mean, to be fair, this season, like basically had a few issues with the team I've been at where I maybe wasn't in the best of shape at certain points.
Mm.
Uh, I mean, mainly for mental health reasons that I
Yeah.
don't. Well, we could go into if you wanted to, but I'm not
No,
like
no,
I'm
it's
not
on you, brother.
not too caught up on them. Uh, but basically, they didn't trust me that much, so I didn't get put into too many races, which meant that my race fitness wasn't really there. So there was definitely a race this year, which was stage. I mean, I think it was 5 stages, but the last stage was like pretty hilly, not crazy hilly, but flat out for the whole thing.
Mm.
And I spent the whole of that stage pretty much. The peloton was mainly one big group until the last, say, 50k. We were mainly working kilometers. The stage was about 180 or something. Pretty much about 20k in, I was sort of off the back at a bit up this climb, and just spent the rest of the stage like getting back on, getting dropped, getting back on, getting back up, getting dropped again, and just like spent so long just sort of like groveling by myself, like hiding in the cars and stuff. And then what's another one that's popped to mind is 2018. I did the under 23 Tour de France. It was the last year that I was eligible to ride it.
Mm.
And my season had been going really well up until like that year. But about a month before, maybe a month, 5 weeks before, I'd crashed in a smaller race and broken my hand.
Fuck.
So I'd had like, I don't know, I had quite a lot of time like off / barely doing anything. Managed to get a couple of weeks of okay training in just before I went. I was okay on the flat stages and actually managed to win a flat stage because it was quite an easy stage. I managed to get to the front at the right point and just did basically did a 20-second effort
Gassed it.
flat out and was all that, yeah.
Yeah.
But maybe it was this first proper mountain stage. Within about 3k, I was off the back, like with two other people. At the top of the first climb, one of them got towed away by their team car, like holding onto the car, and the other one got in what we call the bloom wagon, which is like a van that follows the race, and basically like picks up riders that have got off or abandoned.
Oh, so they've quit. Both of them have quit.
Well, one of them had been pulled away by his team car to the group in front, so he basically he cheated, but yeah.
Can you not? That's cheating, right? You can't do that.
It is cheating, but when they're not in contention for the race, no one really cares.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't do it because I feel too bad doing it, but like it happens all the time, and every night, like it's normal for like you to get a bit of a push when you get in a bottle and stuff like that out the team car. Everyone does that, and that's not even like frowned upon. That's just normal. But properly like blatantly holding on to the actual car and getting a tow, it's a bit much.
Yeah.
And then the other person had quit. So it wasn't like the longest stage. It was maybe like 120k, so something like that, which is quite short by the standards of what I race now. But I spent 3/4 of it just riding on my own with like the van behind. The police told me I wasn't going to make the finish, so they told me to get off, and I was like, no, I'm not getting off. I'm riding to the finish. I made it to the finish with like a minute to spare in the time cut, which is for each stage there's a certain percentage of the winner's time that the other riders have to finish in. There's a bigger percentage on a mountain stage and a smaller percentage on a flat stage.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so that's the main difficulty of a sprinter in cycling, is finishing the mountain stages within the time.
Fuck. So you had 3/4 of the stage to just sort of be alone with your thoughts and just be like,
Yeah.
So what goes through your head, man? Like
all sorts. I suppose I just think about like whatever's going on in my life at that time, like whatever needs sorting out or whatever.
Yeah, using it as some sort of like meditation.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I had a 20-minute test to do about a month or two ago, where I had to ride for 3.5 hours before I started my test. And I'd done some other tests in that period of time where I'd already done like one of my best, the best 1-minute power I'd ever done. Like, I'm guessing you know what I mean when I say power.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So then I had this 20-minute test to do at the end of it. I was sort of dreading it. Well, I mean, dreading it as much as you would do because you know it's going to hurt. But somehow, like, I started and just got into this like weird sort of like zone where I was like, it doesn't really hurt that much, and like I know this is as much as I can do, but I'm just sort of like here doing it, and it wasn't like, I don't know, it was hard to describe, but maybe there's so much adrenaline and serotonin going around your body at once that it's just sort of, you get into this weird state.
What were you
where
like after that? Because like I know exactly what you're describing. Like during those tests, during the during whatever the stages, it hurts, but it doesn't because you're just like
Yeah,
completely fucking out of it. But like
yeah,
afterwards,
definitely.
it's like hitting you in the fucking face.
Oh yeah, you're wrecked afterwards. Like you're absolutely done.
Oh dear. Like those lactate tests, man, like oh, they're gruesome.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah. Like,
It's entertaining to
yeah.
watch though. Like
Oh god, I
call me
feel too
like
guilty watching.
oh nah, like call me like an absolute fucking call me Lucifer himself, you know what I mean? But like putting an athlete through a lactate test when they don't know what's going on, you know what I mean? They're like, oh
if
yeah,
they, if
okay.
they have, if they haven't done it before, they
Yeah.
don't know what to expect. At least I know what it's going to be like when I
Yeah.
do it.
At least you can prepare yourself, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh fucking hell. Oh dear. So what about mobility? Like or the stuff you do to look after yourself physically, but purely physically.
Well, I'm very lucky that my grandma is a yoga teacher and
Oh
has
wow.
owned her own yoga center since, well, first she's she's owned that since I was maybe 12 or something. And she's always been a yoga teacher all my life, so I've always had that. Like, I didn't always do it, but I always had small influences of that in my life. And as soon as I started cycling seriously, I just started doing that here and there, and I feel like that's helped me like tenfold, avoiding injuries, etc., and stuff like that.
Especially in cycling because like you
Oh
don't
yeah.
like the distance you cover is like unimaginable, but you don't actually move that much.
No, yeah. So you're always in this one position. You should see my hip flexors if I don't look after myself.
Yeah,
Like,
you fucked.
they just shrivel up and go.
In it, man.
Yeah.
Like it's like a shrimp.
So yeah, that's something that I think is super important. Yeah,
Do
just
you do
because
yoga every
you bent
morning?
over for like so. I don't do it every morning, but I probably do it like ideally like 4 or 5 times a week.
Yeah.
I
Like
tend to have
sorry, go on.
when I'm having a rest day, I tend to not bother because it becomes too mentally tiring to
Yeah.
try and do it when I'm on a rest day.
Yeah, a lot of people say like, oh, you've got time, like you're not training, you're not doing it. I'm like, yeah, when I'm not training, I'm lying down doing fuck all.
I don't have the mental energy to do anything else.
Yeah, I don't have to
As
do
much
it.
as I want to,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I always plan loads of stuff I'm going to do, and then I just don't get down to doing it. I'm just too tired.
So how do you do it in the mornings at home or do you do it at a center?
I do it at home mainly.
Mm,
I mean, when I have time, I go to her classes,
mm,
but I regularly sort of don't really have that much time to go in because the classes are like between an hour and a half, 2 hours. It's only in Knutsford, so it's not far away. But by the time I've driven or cycled there, spent the time there, had a cup of tea afterwards, and come back,
mm.
it's
It's about
it's
three,
two
four
two 3
hours.
hours out of my day.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So I'd love to go more. If I organise myself, I probably could. But if I just do like half an hour, 40 minutes in the morning, it's so much like easier. Then I have my breakfast and go out on my bike, and it's.
Do you follow anything or do you just sort of make it up?
I have basically I've spent so long following my grandma teaching stuff that I just sort of like I copy sort of things that she does.
Hmm. Yeah,
So like
that makes sense.
yeah. So I
What
don't like
so
follow like a plan,
yeah.
but I've informed myself over the years.
Hmm. That makes sense. You kind of just use experience and like adapt to like what's
Yeah,
going on and how you feel and whatnot. Um,
exactly. Yeah.
so like, what do you do to keep yourself mentally tip top?
What do I do to keep myself mentally tip top? I don't know. Maybe I don't do that as well as I could do.
It's
Uh,
a hard one, man. Like, because like with the body, like you break a bone, you know how to fix it. You make a,
mm,
you cut yourself, you know how to fix it. You
it's
feel
more
tight or
complicated.
sore,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, but
Yeah.
if you're feeling a
I
bit
mean,
burnt out mentally, or even if it's super serious, super not serious, like it's kind of hard to figure out what to fucking do.
it is. Yeah. I mean, I suppose I take quite a bit of time for myself to do like just do other things in my life, if that
Mm,
makes sense.
mm,
I value that quite a lot. So like I don't know. I mean, I'd say going out on my mountain bike is one, but at the end of the day, it's kind of part of cycling at the same time.
mm.
So like I don't know. I grew up skateboarding, so every now and again I might go and mess about on my skateboard a bit. Obviously,
Yeah,
not
yeah,
too much for obvious reasons, but
yeah, yeah.
uh, stuff like that, really. I do find yoga actually helps. Like, if my body's really tight, my head usually feels shit at the same time.
Fucking, I think I'm exactly the same.
Yeah.
Exactly the
But my
same.
body feels good. My head feels good.
Yeah. Although you do get, I don't know if you're the same, but sometimes I'll get into that state where I'm like, well, my body kind of feels recovered, and it's been a long time since I felt recovered. Am I not training hard enough? You know what I mean?
I know what you mean, yeah.
But
But
I 100%
I
like,
don't often get that, to be honest.
oh, you don't. Well, you're training
No,
like fucking 6 hours a day. You know what
exactly.
I mean?
Yeah. I'm usually thinking, am I recovered enough?
Mm. Is recovery a massive part in cycling?
I'd say so, yeah. I probably don't take it quite as seriously as I should sometimes when I'm at home.
Mm.
But I guess you got to have a bit of a life at the same time, otherwise you'd go mental.
Yeah.
But when I'm at a race or like just before the race, like yeah, I take it super seriously. Like just resting as much as I can, obviously eating as well as I can. Like the day before the race, you can pretty much eat as much as you want within reason.
Within
Uh,
reason, yeah. Um, fuck yeah, that's really interesting. And something like we've not even like fucking spoke about is like food, man. Like, cause you're cycling for 4 to 6 hours, covering like huge amounts of fucking distance. Like,
mm,
first of all, what do you put in yourself at the start? So in day to day, and then like that intra workout, I guess you can call it, but intra stage competition cycle ride. What do you do?
well, if I say I break down like a day of a stage race, I'll
Mm,
wake up and I'll have pretty big breakfast where I'll have usually have like rice and an omelette is
mm,
like one plate of food, and then I might have some porridge, and then I might have like some like I quite like pancakes on
mm.
a race day breakfast. They're quite good. So say I have that. I try not to eat too much in the morning because otherwise you feel super heavy when you get on the bike.
Mm.
And then I might have a small snack just before the start. So I'll have the breakfast like 3 hours before usually. That's what we aim to do. I might have a small snack before the start. And then whilst I'm on the bike, there'll be stuff like in the first part of the race, if it's not too difficult at the start, I'll try and eat more then. So there'll be like like flapjack bar type things, and sometimes you'll take like small sandwiches and stuff like that, like, or like chopped up. A big thing's rice cakes, not like you dried rice cakes, but sort of like it's almost like squished rice pudding in like a little. It's
Oh,
a bit drier so it sticks together. I've gone after them recently. I don't know if I ate too much of them or
yeah,
or what, but
maybe.
uh, I try and make sure I eat enough protein in the first half of the race, definitely,
Hmm.
and most definitely beforehand. I feel a lot more fueled when I have enough protein as well as enough carbohydrate and fat at the same time.
Hmm.
And then the second half of the race is when all the gels and stuff like that start. Make like usually a caffeine, one or two caffeine gels if it's a day I'm going for the win on, and that sort of thing really. And then after the finish, you might have a recovery shake, some more rice or pasta with whatever protein source you want. I'm actually vegetarian now, so I would have try and have like some sort of like beans or something like that.
Hmm.
And then in the evening, sort of your same sort of thing though. So like some sort of rice or pasta, protein source, plenty of veg and stuff to keep your vitamins and minerals up, because obviously it's like when we're doing those long competitions for, I mean, some of the longest ones I do at the moment are like 7 or 8 days, but potentially they can be 3 weeks. Like it'd be so easy to get ill,
Hmm.
like if you're not eating properly in that sort of environment.
So how does you like eating during an event, right, is a special thing, and how does that sort of affect your like digestive system? Is it uncomfortable and you just grind through it?
Sometimes, sometimes it is, yeah. It can definitely be quite uncomfortable at times.
Hmm.
You ideate there's like a really fine balance when you've just eaten enough
Hmm.
and you're not like super heavy. Like it's so hard. It's sometimes so hard to find that perfect balance of like just eating enough because it's different every single day.
Yeah.
Uh, Sometimes it can be difficult. Sometimes it's not too bad. If it's on certain days, you can feel quite light and not really struggle with it.
Hmm.
It's harder on the stages that are like flat out from the start because obviously the harder you're trying, the harder it is to eat.
Yeah, for sure. And that's
Yeah.
gonna it's gonna sit pretty
Oh
pretty
yeah.
roughly,
Like
right?
trying to eat in zone 4 is almost impossible.
That's a recipe to throw up. That.
That's where the gels come in handy because you don't have to like they're a lot easier to eat. Obviously, in our bottles as well, we'll have like carbohydrate mixes in our bottles and stuff like that.
Like multi-dextrin and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes we'll even have like there's some companies that make like a carb and protein mix,
Mm,
which you might have at the start of an easier stage,
mm. Um,
which I think is quite good.
what's it been like being veggie? Like, have you noticed a difference at all, or?
I I feel kind of like I almost feel like I recover a bit better, and
Cool.
I feel a bit lighter than myself. Like I don't know whether it's like completely mental or what, but I actually prefer it. Now I've tried it, I prefer it. And people ask if it's hindered my performance, and I'm like, I definitely don't think it's hindered it. It might have even helped it, but I don't have any like evidence as such
Yeah, but it's
to
all
back that
by
up.
your feel, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
like I've done the best 20-minute and 1-minute test after like a year of being veggie.
that's awesome.
Mm.
And even for a
Yeah,
sprinter, like keeping some power
yeah.
too.
Well, yeah, of course, yeah.
That's I mean, yeah, I've got. I don't have anyone who's vegetarian that I coach, any athlete under my wing, but I've got a couple of vegans. Um,
I was gonna, yeah,
yeah, and they like, I don't know, they feel a lot better on it too. And a lot of it's just down to the individual, right? Because
yeah,
I know if I like red meat, for example, if I keep red meat out of my diet, I don't feel good.
Do you not?
Nah, like I feel like I don't have a lot of energy. I feel like I don't recover as well. Like going into a session, I don't
Yeah,
feel recovered.
that's funny. I do take iron supplements every now and again. I don't take them regularly, but I
Mm,
sort of take them as and when I might feel like I need them.
mm. Do you take anything else?
No, I like. I used to take quite a lot of supplements, and more recently, I try and find it naturally wherever I can, basically,
Yeah, yeah.
rather than
What about your omegas? Like, because obviously you're not going to be smashing through like a
yeah.
shitload of fish.
I mean, I'm not sure how well it's worked or not, but stuff like chai seeds and basically seeds and stuff like that really is where I've tried to get them from.
Mm, mm. I mean, there's still a lot of essential oils in seeds,
Yeah, exactly.
so that's still going to help you out.
Yeah.
Um, what supplements have you like tried in your cycling career, and has it massively benefited? Has it like, oh, that basically did fuck all?
I mean, I took multivitamins for a long time.
Mm,
I don't really think they did that much.
mm.
Uh, what else have I used? Sometimes on when racing on the track, I'd use. Have you ever heard of people using bicarb or bicarbonate of soda as
Yeah,
a lactic acid buffer?
buffer. Yeah,
Yeah, I've used that on several occasions.
has it worked?
Might have worked, might have not. Don't know. Just tastes horrible.
Yeah, psychological, right? It's a fucking placebo.
Yeah, I've tried. Like those beetroot shots,
Mm,
the nitrate.
yeah,
Might have worked, might have not. I don't know.
yeah, yeah.
I know they're the kind of things that if I've got the time and got the means to do it, then I will do because I don't
Mm,
think they make me any worse. But
mm.
how much they make me better, I don't know. What
Fuck
else
that.
have I tried? Yeah,
Everyone
I think
just
iron
like,
supplements work. Go on,
yeah.
what were you going to say?
Nah, especially if you've not. I mean, if you're vegetarian, right? Like the amount of
Yeah.
iron you can consume is relatively limited.
Unless I'm
Um,
just eating bags and bags of spinach.
yeah, which is gonna end up making you throw up or some shit. You know what I mean? Like the amount of spinach you'd have to eat would be fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
Um, but like, nah, that's interesting because a lot of people just like throw everything into supplements. And right now, like I don't take a single thing. But like the
No.
two things that I'd say are the best in my experience are a greens powder.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like not like
I
a
have actually tried that before. Actually, yeah, I
how
quite
did
like that.
how did you feel?
I think that's one of the only things that's actually made me feel a bit better.
Fucking I'm
But
exactly the same.
I genuinely usually feel better if I just have loads of vegetables, loads of fruit and veg,
Yeah,
and then it usually has the same effect basically.
yeah,
But
yeah. I
that's
mean it's
something
exactly
that
the same, right?
yeah, I like. What I actually probably should do is take that away with me when I go away to races and stuff, so that
Mm,
to make sure that I'm getting enough of that sort of stuff in my diet when it's harder to.
for sure.
That's something I've done in the past that I will probably try and do again.
Yeah, for sure. I'm into my like herbal teas, I guess you can sort of call it.
No, I like herbal. Yeah, I'm
Like I'll
quite keen.
fucking like the lady's got like a teapot, right? She likes her teas. I'm not really into it, but um I'm into like the whole support your immune system and not getting ill, and you know what I mean. So I'll cut up some
Yeah,
fresh
yeah.
ginger, some lemon, bit of
Oh,
honey,
that's
and
nice. Yeah, yeah. Oh, I love that.
yeah,
That's a great combo.
in it, man.
I
And then
also
just put a bit of
like.
green tea with it.
I also like fresh mint tea.
Oh,
So you ever tried that?
nah,
Just straight peppermint leaves in the teapot, crush them up a
shit,
bit. Yeah, it's well
good.
nice. Yeah, very good.
Is it like? Is there any like known benefit? I'm one of those people, right, where even if
I
I
mean,
fucking
I
hate
think
it,
there is. I think I could Google it if you want, but I think there is.
yeah, it'll be something. It'll help you somewhere.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be something. Yeah.
Um, Yeah, and the second sort of supplement that I think is underrated, and the only thing I've actually felt a massive difference from is maca. Have you heard of maca?
Oh, right. I have, yeah. Like if I'm thinking what you're thinking of, you mean like the green tea, or are you
Um,
thinking of something? Oh, I'm thinking of matcha.
nah, you're thinking of matcha. Yeah,
Yeah.
maca.
Sorry. What is it?
It's from a root. It's from a root in
Oh, right.
I believe it's Chile. I know it's South America, like North South America. That's a lie because Chile is not North South America. I know it's
Exactly.
South America. So it's yeah, it's basically into a powder form, and they come in like different colors, and they're obviously different colors have different benefits. But it's really good for, I mean, take this how you will, but it's really good for like male fertility, mood enhancement, energy,
Right.
prostate, like all that sort of shit. And I
Hmm.
don't know, like, I mean, you will get this from the like the overtraining and then the sort of illness that like wiped you out. Like you just feel like your hormones are like at the floor, like things
Yeah.
aren't working, fucking
I
like
I
tired.
sometimes get that now. Like I've been thinking about looking into a. You've heard of? Well, I think the proper name's a light box. No. Basically, in winter, I'll get really tired, like
Yeah.
most of the time. So they basically radiate or kind of imitate like the light you'd expect from the sun.
Oh
So
shit.
like I reckon I've potentially got SAD.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking of getting something like that to try and help. Well, yeah, basically regulate my hormones in my body during winter
Mm.
because I will just feel like wiped out 90% of the time in winter.
It's fucking crazy, isn't it, man?
Yeah.
I try maca.
Hmm.
Like
I'll
it
look into it. Did you
tastes.
send us a link?
Oh, I'll
Hmm.
yeah, I'll flick you a link. I've done it both, one
Yeah.
over here and then one in the UK. In fact, a couple of different companies in the UK, and it's brilliant, man. I've felt the difference like right away.
Hmm. Yeah, I can
Um,
imagine.
what was I
One
gonna say?
second, my girlfriend.
That's all right. Ladies first.
Yeah. Yeah.
Aw.
She can
Still.
say hello if she wants.
Yeah, you can say hello if you want. We're still
Oh.
recording, but
Brain is a bit
fried
fried
from
from
work.
work.
That's funny because that's literally what we were just talking about.
You
But
don't have a job.
no, not work, but
Well,
just
not
like
normal.
mental
Oh,
capacity.
God. I've literally been speaking to the GS of my team next year, and she's like, right, you just got to get your head in the right place, and you'll just be amazing.
Well, that's most definitely true.
She said everything that you said to me. I was like,
So
fuck, that's right.
doesn't listen to me.
Well, that's our job, right? Not to be listened.
Yeah, I
Just do the pots. Sit there, look pretty. Nah, I'm fucking with you. What was I gonna say? All right, so let me try and find them. I've got some little questions. Not quick fire, but you know what I mean. So I got into reading books, as you would,
okay. What sort of book?
non-fiction, because it takes me a while. You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah,
remember I'd read 4 books in my life by the age of 22.
I think I'm pretty similar, to be honest.
Like
Maybe
I
even less.
I could not read for the life of me. It took me I don't know, like just before we came into high school, I could barely spell a fucking word. Like it was bad. Anyway, I got into reading books. I enjoy it. You know, I know fuck all, so I get a lot from it. Do you like books? Do you even reading any as of late?
I try, but I tend to get lost pretty quickly. Like I'll have to like reread what I've read about 3 times, and it still won't have gone in. I find like, but yeah, I do find, like you said, I do find non-fiction easier to read than fiction because I'll get even more lost with that. But
Hmm.
I like it, but I don't tend to do it too much because it takes me a long time to sort of think about what I've just heard and take in the information.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. Like I had to start off with 4 pages every morning.
It's not a bad idea, to be fair.
But even that took me like 20, 30 minutes to start off with. You know what I mean? After read, you read a line, reread a line, reread a line. I'm like, oh, this is comical. Nah, man. So one I've actually read as recently is "Winners and How They Succeed" by Alistair Campbell, and it goes pretty in depth of like Dave Brailsford and how like the sort of minutiae in cycling and the kind of marginal gains and the little things. Like it's really interesting, man. And then obviously that's your sport, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
No, I was just saying it is really interesting, those sort of things. It's like what we were talking about before, the supplements. It's like you don't know if it's gonna like how much difference it's gonna make, but it's always, if you can, it's always worth making those small changes, because if you make all those small changes, they're all gonna add up, and all those tiny little changes are gonna make one big change.
For sure. Do you have a routine at all? Like, are you a lad that likes a routine, or are you kind of a bit spontaneous?
I like routines, but I'm not very good at keeping them. And sometimes if I make myself a plan of what I'm going to do, if I don't do it, I'm going to beat myself up more than if I don't sort of have too much of a plan and then sort of freestyle as I go along.
Bit of a kill cucumber rather than plan everything out.
Most definitely.
Yeah, I mean, mate, that fucking works too. Like, it's just, again, it's all like individual, innit? Same with the diet.
Definitely.
Like, just play around with it, see what works. So like, what's your like go-to if you just finished an event? What would be your go-to like meal afterwards? Do you have a go-to meal? What you think about gets you through it?
It's usually pizza.
Oh man,
my girlfriend's just laughing now because she knows what I'm going to say.
Yeah, I mean,
it is. Yeah, it is usually pizza, and not fancy pizza either. Usually like the cheaper, the nastier, the better.
Oh,
not necessarily cheap, but nasty.
Yeah, the proper greasy ones.
Yeah, like not like a fancy nice pizza that you'd normally want, like a really greasy pizza with as many calories as possible.
Oh yeah, they do $5 Domino's pizzas over here, which is £2.50.
Oh, right.
Mate, it is dangerous.
Domino's is so expensive usually.
Yeah, I know, and
like it's
I don't know, the quality of Domino's over here is a bit better.
No, that's not what I want. I want bad quality pizza.
Yeah, I want the shit. Yeah, fuck it.
I go somewhere fancy if I want good quality pizza.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. You won't catch me dead in a fancy place. You know what I mean? Dear. If you were to give like, all right, so if a young cyclist came up to you and was like, all right, give me 3 pieces of advice, you're going to be my genie. What would you tell like a young cyclist that kind of wanted to break through into pro cycling, isn't quite there yet, but is already a cyclist?
Cyclist.
Yeah.
What would I say? I guess I'd say keeping your own identity is really important. So having like a sense of self beyond just cycling might help at times, especially at times where maybe it isn't going so well. Your value then isn't based on your cycling, and that sort of attitude will then help people to stay in sport for longer, because a lot of the times when people aren't doing so well, they have a tendency to just quit and be like, it's not going well, so I'm going to find something else that I can do, rather than sort of like, this may be going to be the second one, which is putting the effort in when you maybe don't feel like putting the effort in. And like those bad days, doing what you can. Maybe you can't do what you like originally planned to do that day. But on certain days where maybe your body isn't feeling quite so good or your head isn't feeling quite so good, just do something. Whether that's just like a couple of hours easy, it just gets you into such a better routine than if you were to then think, oh no, I'm just going to sack it off today and do nothing. Like, you're going to, all those little days add up.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
then for a last one, for a third one, what could I say?
What about when you're ill? Like listening to your body. Like
Listening to your body. Like that's what I was thinking before. Is listening to your body is
no coach knows your body. No
one knows your body like you know your body. Take time to learn your own body. Feel where the limits are. Feel where it starts to hurt, and know what you can do yourself. Like no one's going to be able to tell you what you can do as well as you can. And like obviously push what you know you can do and be willing to push it, but also like know yourself at the same time. Like
that's absolutely spot on. And I mean, I actually say exactly that to everyone I'll coach. Is like I obviously don't, but I could know everything in the world, right? In terms of whatever they want to do, but I am still lacking something. They have that intrinsic feedback that I will never feel. So it's being able to interpret that, put it into like cognitive, and just be like, okay, what's actually going on, depending on what my body's feeling, etc., etc. And like, yeah, that's really important, especially if you want to end up going pro. Like, you can't snap your shit up when you're younger, and you know what I mean. You're basically shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Would you say your illness has kind of turned the approach around of how you sort of move forward?
Most definitely. It's almost changed my life entirely. Like, it gave me so much time to realize my first point, which was have a value of self other than just your sport and your sporting ability. It made me realize I was so much more than that, which then brought me back to being like, yeah, I'm so much more than that, but this is part of me that I want to like push as far as I can. So it's almost made me more motivated in a way, because it's given me sort of, I don't really know how to put it, but it's given me like such a greater perspective on general life. And also like, yeah, I don't really know how to put it, but it's changed my perspective on life massively.
Yeah, for sure. And like, especially during the illness, when you couldn't really, like you said, couldn't cycle at a pace that someone would go down shop with, like that kind of took away everything that you sort of pinned your identity on, wasn't it?
Absolutely. I had to start from scratch with what I knew about myself.
Yeah. Which is, some people go on a yoga trip, some people go on a weekend bender, and you just needed to go through some sort of like crazy illness and come out the other side of it, man.
Yeah.
Mate,
definitely didn't do me any harm long run.
It's still fucking hats off to you, mate. Like being able to come through it and still be on the saddle, you know what I mean? Like you said, like your ex team leader or coach had to retire from it, and that, mate, to be able to take that on the chin, like take that punch and then say, nah, in fact, I'm not going to go gently into the night, and I'm gonna keep going, is fucking hats off, mate. That's really cool. All right, I won't keep you too long, so I'll ask you one more question, and everyone hates it when I ask this question, but fuck it. Describe yourself in 5 words.
Not sure if I'm qualified to describe myself.
Well,
I feel like other people should describe me.
We can ask you missus if you want.
Go on, describe me in 5 words.
I don't want to be too harsh.
You can be as harsh or
I'm
nice.
very critical.
You can be harsh or nice. It's up to you.
stubborn. But I think that's a really good trait for an athlete.
Yeah.
Because I've never met someone who's really, really, really good, like, and still like competing who isn't stubborn to the point where you literally want to be like, I want to punch you in the face.
You've got to believe in yourself to some level, haven't you?
Innit, man?
I guess you need that stubbornness to not like quit. Like so many people just give up, but you need to be stubborn to be like, nah, stop that. I'm gonna keep going. Obsessive. You're very obsessive. Like if you want something, it doesn't matter what it is, whether it be like, I don't know, like new skateboard deck, or if you want to like master something, like I don't know, a trick on your mountain bike, or if you want to win something, like when you're in Lavernier, you were so obsessed with like the idea of winning. You're like, didn't happen today, and like as it was getting towards the end of it, it was just like there's no sprint stages left. Like, what's he gonna do? And I was like, I'm not really sure he's gonna do it, to be honest. And then you just win. I was like, okay, so he knows what he's doing.
Do you want to sit here?
Oh, cool. I've made this spot warm now. What else would I say you are? Introverted. You're very introverted. You don't like being around people a lot of the time. Like you're quite happy to be by yourself and just be but I think that's a good trait, like to be introverted, because it means that you don't.
I can do things by myself. Like I don't need someone else to hold my hand if I want to go and do something. If I want to do it, I'll just do it.
I'd say you're also independent actually as well, because I feel like a lot of athletes, because of always like, I don't think you'd be independent if you stayed on British cycling, because you were like the poster boy and like just like that cute looking kind of one that seemed to do so well all the time, and also because you were from like close to where it's based. You grew up in Cheshire, so it's like, oh, he's got the accent as well, like he's kind of the whole package, hey kids out there, you can be like this kid too, sort of thing. But you're still very much like, now anyway, like, no, this is me, like I want to do this. If you say, do you want to do this, and say no, you're like, oh well, I'm doing this anyway, sort of thing. And in races and stuff, like I don't know, I think as a sprinter as well, you have to have that kind of that independence, whether it be like the way you act, the way you look. You have quite a distinctive look as well. Like even when you ride a bike, I'd say, like I don't really know anyone who I'd say looks like you and has your style. Probably the closest
sometimes, to me. Yeah. Sometimes on a bike, you have to like go where you don't necessarily. Sometimes your team might go one way, but you're like, it's better if you go another way. Sometimes you have to make that call where you're like, no, we shouldn't do that. We should do this instead. And sometimes they don't believe you, and sometimes you just have to do it by yourself.
Is that frowned upon, or is it
if
kind
you
of
win,
accepted? If you win,
if you win, it's good. If you don't, it was bad.
Yeah. If you win, you're a hero.
Yeah, is that 4?
That's 3, I think.
3?
No, it's 4.
Oh, it's 4.
You said stubborn, obsessive.
Oh, obsessive, introverted, independent. I'd say you're emotional as well. I think this is the other aspect of you which really sets you aside from a lot of other people. Maybe not a lot of Europeans, but especially British.
I feel like you're very emotional. I feel like you have to be emotional. If you're the kind of person that's going to obsess about things and want something, that comes from emotion. It doesn't come from. It doesn't come from just.
But I think it makes you more relatable and therefore more likable, whether it be to teammates, maybe not as much, but coaches and people from the outer world who aren't just an athlete, maybe even sponsors, even in photos, for example. When you come across the line, I don't want to see someone who just looks like they've just woke, like just sat at home. Like some people just have no expression on their face. It's like, that's not going to sell bikes. No one's going to want to put that on a wall in a bike shop or at the headquarters of, I don't know, for example, BH in Spain or something. No one wants to put that to their brand, because it's like, why are you too cool to look excited and happy? You just won a race. Like literally, if you won a race this year, that could literally be the difference between the situation you're in now and like £100,000 contract for a year. And it's just like, you might laugh about that, but showing emotion, there's nothing wrong with it. Like, and I think also sport always reflects the attitude in the country that it's from. And I think that in Britain we have such a like, why showing emotion, why happy? Like people just want to know why, and it's just like stiff upper lip. If you're sad, like no one cares. Like, keep that to yourself. And I think it's obviously leads on to why we have such an issue with men's mental health in the UK. Because like women, it's like, oh, she's fine. It's probably her time of the month. Whereas like men, it's just like, well, why is he Mardy? Like, cheer up.
Yeah, okay.
Like, stop being such a girl.
Well,
like,
impression is such an important thing. We were talking earlier about how cycling is, you're basically a walking billboard, and the way you come across to the public is
paramount.
Yeah, it's so important.
Definitely, I definitely agree with that.